What about Illinois? What happened in Illinois? We went over there for 2 years, didn't we?
There I was, back in the wild again. And I felt right at home, where I belong. I had that feeling coming over me again. Just like it happened so many times before. Hey, Maddie!
First of all, we didn't kill.
No.
We didn't get one. But we stayed over there for 7 days, didn't we?
Yeah.
And finally, the last evening, do you remember what came out? That was so far away, but it just wouldn't get in range. That big 10-pointer that they ended up killing, and it scored 178 inches.
Oh, yeah.
That big one?
I remember.
Yeah. That was pretty cool because that trip there actually showed Maddie that going hunting is not just about killing, is it?
No.
What's it about?
It's about spending time with your dad or your family when you go hunting.
And friends.
Yeah.
And meeting new friends.
Yeah.
We met some pretty good friends along the way, haven't we?
Yeah.
Yeah, we have. That year, over in Illinois, we had a buck come out, and a lot of hunters would have took this shot. Now, we was at an outfitter, and, you know, we had paid thousands of dollars to go to this outfitter. And last evening, you know, the last day of the hunt, this buck comes out, and he's 70 yards. And I would not let Maddie take the shot with the crossbow, because at that time I wasn't real comfortable with her shooting. And they ended up shooting that deer later on, and it scored. It was either 176 or 178. Typical, clean 10-pointer. No kickers, no nothing. So it really impressed me about Maddie. I learned that she knew that it wasn't about just harvesting and killing an animal, because she had a blast. And then the second year we went over there, we had a couple mishaps, and Maddie found what they call the dead zone. And 2 bucks, back to back, 2 days, one right after another. First day, second day. Ended up being my fault, not hers. But she ended up shooting high in that dead zone, and we lost both of them deer. And that pretty much devastated you, didn't it? Luckily, we got trail cam pictures of them deer. One got killed during gun season that year, and the second one actually survived. So we was pretty fortunate not to, you know, kill them and not find them. They just lay out there and rot. So that was kind of another bittersweet thing. I remember one time me and Papa went hunting, and I was 8 years old. And I remember Dad at that time would kind of set me by myself, because, you know, back then you set at a young age, but he was only like 40 yards away from me. So I was sitting on the ground, had my old Browning A5 Belgian-made shotgun, and all it had was just a bead on the end of it. That's basically like a BB sitting on the end of the gun, and you look down the flat part of the gun called a rib, and it was a ventilated rib, and you look down and you kind of line it up, you put that bead on and pull the trigger. Well, anyways, here come 3 does and a little bitty forked horn. Come right up what we called the big hill, coming towards me. Does get out of the way, and here's this buck, and just looking straight at me. And back then, we didn't practice ethical shots like we do now. We learn, okay? And, you know, if I would have known, I wouldn't have took this shot. But he was facing me, straight ahead. So I come down on him, and I pull the trigger, and it flattened him. He goes down, rolls all the way to the bottom of the hill, and gets up, and I see him going up the creek bed. So Dad, by the time I looked up to holler at him. He's already to me because, he was only 40, 50 yards away. So I was young. We start blood trailing it. Kind of getting a little scarce on blood, little bitty drops. So Dad had decided to back out. So we backed out. We go back to camp. Dad gets a couple buddies, and they take off. Dad looked for that deer for 2 days. Never did find that deer. Finally, it was about a week and a half later, we're back over there, and Dad's making a drive. And a drive is where you set people, in a line, say 150, 200 yards apart, facing one way, and other people come in from the way they're facing and walk slowly, kind of drive the deer. Kind of a dangerous way of hunting, but not if you know where everybody's at. So anyways, Papaw's on the drive, and I'm sitting there, and all of a sudden I see him, and he's decked out in orange pants, orange jacket, everything. So I see him coming up through there, and I see he's got something in his hand. I'm like, what in the world is that? And sure enough, it was the skull of that little forked horn. If Dad would have went another 75 yards, he would have found that deer in a briar thicket. But he had already went probably 2.5 miles, did a grid search, did everything, and he thought, you know what, he didn't think the deer was going to die. So he backed out, and we just licked our wounds and called it a day. And that's probably my most memorable hunt that I always look back to, because first of all, it was the first deer I shot at. Second of all, it's the first deer I wounded. And, we didn't find it. My very first deer I did kill, we was on a drive, and comes this doe. I'm sitting on the side of a hill, and there's a holler and hillside on the other side. And sure enough, here comes these does, and this one stops. Well, it stops in a window about this wide. There's a little tree here and a little tree there. And when he stops, that's his vitals. So I had a perfect window. So sure enough, and I had the same Browning 20 gauge A5, and I draw down on him, and boom, I shoot, and all of a sudden this tree goes, and I didn't let Papaw hear this, but I kind of cussed. I went, said some bad words. And so one of Dad's friends that was driving, he comes along that hillside, but he didn't see where I was, and he kept right on walking. And Dad had always told me, never get up until somebody comes and physically touches you and gets you. So I sat there. Well, about 20 minutes later, here come Dad's friend Don down over the hill and said, "Hey, whose doe is this laying up here?" I said, "Well, it's not mine, because I shot that tree in two right there." He said, "Well, it must be yours, because I just followed the blood trail right to this tree." Well, the tree was right here. The deer was on this side. The bullet hit the tree, ricocheted up, went in the flank area, and literally was sticking in the hide out here. So I had missed that deer so far I killed him. So that's my very first experience my very first harvest. And so everybody's got their, memories and all that. So those are just a couple of my early years. So my very first deer I shot at, I wounded. Ended up killing it, but we didn't find it. And then the very first deer I did kill, I killed a tree too. Follow our adventures. We are going to have a lot more. Hope you stay watching, give us some feedback, and definitely check out all the equipment that we use. Every piece of equipment we use, we believe in, we trust, and It's the best that we have found for us, right?
There I was, back in the wild again. And I felt right at home, where I belong. I had that feeling coming over me again. Just like it happened so many times before. Hey, Maddie! Yeah!
We might be in trouble. Oh, I can. I know
These
where I
gotta be our
started at.
bloopers. These gotta be our bloopers.